your head around this one. In 1990, in Las Vegas, Nevada, the gaming capital of the world, the FBI took myself and my wife out of our home and handcuffs, and my wife, they had leg irons on her, and we were arrested and we were charged with being a part of a criminal conspiracy, conspiring to bet on sports. Bet on sports. Now here we are, 2024. Betting on sports is legal in the majority of the United States. In 2023, in Las Vegas at the Circle Hotel, I was inducted into the Sports Gamblers Hall of Fame for betting on sports. But in 1990, in Las Vegas, Nevada, I was indicted, along with my wife, and charged with betting on sports. So, yeah, I'd gone to court a number of times. I'd beat them a number of times. Every one of the indictments were centered around my sports betting. That's what they were centered around, nothing more, nothing less. But I was a sports bettor.
So was sports betting illegal? What were the laws?
Absolutely, it wasn't illegal. No, not illegal at all. I was charged with being part of a criminal conspiracy, conspiring to bet on sports, betting people in other states. It was ridiculous. I went to court. My wife and I, we were exonerated.
So is it because it was legal in Vegas but not legal in other states?
They tried to make it that way, but when we went to court and the facts came out, we were exonerated on all the charges. There was one charge. The vote was 11-1 to acquit us, and come to find out the one guy who voted against us hadn't told the truth in his interview to be on a jury. He was a former police officer, and so anyway, they chose not to indict us. They dropped the case. It was over with. But we were exonerated on all the charges except the one charge, and they were voted 11-1 to acquit us on that. And then I was indicted 3 times after that for the same thing, betting on sports. It was thrown out of court every time. And then, so anyway, but what happens, and what I realized through all of this, Joe, is the higher profile you have, the bigger target you become. Especially if you're someone who's beat them a number of times over a period of years, there becomes a vendetta. You're the guy that everybody wants to bring down. And then I'm involved in New York originally with a guy with Carl Icahn, one of the most successful investors in the history of the world, and that investigation went nowhere because there was nothing there. And then this issue came up with Dean Foods, and bottom line was there was a lot of motivation to get me to indict me, and that's exactly what happened. The 5 people were involved in my case, 3 prosecutors, a supervisor, and the former U.S. attorney. 4 of them, as soon as my case was over, within a matter of months, held press conferences, and their claim to fame was they had sent me to prison. 3 of them have gone into private practice today. Their sole business is they represent people with white-collar crimes in the Southern District of New York. They bring them back over, and with the people that they work with for years, and they cut deals. The 4th one ran for the U.S. Congress in New York. He's now a United States congressman. And the guy who was a former U.S. attorney, he is now working for a law firm representing people with white-collar crimes. So they went from what they were doing to these very high-paying jobs, making a lot of money. The other fellow is now in politics. He's a congressman from New York. So there's a lot of motivation for people on that side to send high-profile people to prison, and that's kind of how they get to the next rung of the ladder, so to speak. You know, the reason I wrote this book, Joe, is I began to write this book in 2003 with a guy in Las Vegas. His name was Jack Sheehan. Good friend, good writer, good guy. And we worked on it for a while, and I decided I'm not writing any book, okay? Well, fast forward 2017, I walked into federal prison in Pensacola, Florida when I was 71 years old with a 5-year sentence, which could have easily been a life sentence. And while I was in prison, my daughter committed suicide. So I had to write this book. I had to write it for a number of reasons. I wanted to share my childhood that you and I went over a little bit. I want to help people. Because, I don't care who you are, what part you're at in your life. We all have issues that we're dealing with. So I wanted to share my childhood, and then I wanted to share, the addictions that I had when I was younger. I had an issue with alcohol. I got addicted to betting sports. And then later on in my life, as I became more mature and I was able to overcome those things, I got in business. I've been successful with that. And, I've become a fairly successful sports bettor. So, and then I went to prison, which I had to share that experience because when I went into prison, there was only one positive thing that came out of that, Joe. I mentored around 24 men. And some of these men have been in prison 20, 25 years. And it really opened my eyes. Every time there was a visitation where I was at in prison, I had someone who visited me. 60% of the people in prison never get a visit. But these men that I mentored, not a one of them wanted to go back to prison. But I spent a lot of one-on-one time with them, and the closer they would get to release, you know, the more apprehensive they became. I mean, tough guys, tough guys, ripped guys that had been in prison 20, 25 years, they would become very emotional. They didn't want to go back to prison, but they knew they were probably going to come back to prison because they had no way to earn a living. The only thing they learned in prison was how to become a better criminal. And yeah, they were going to get out. While they were in the halfway house, they were going to get a job someplace making minimum wage. But as soon as that was over, they had to do something to feed their families. And they had no job skill set. So when I got out of prison, I knew I had to try to do something about that. Okay. And so I got involved with Harry Reid when I originally got out of prison, former senator from Nevada, former majority leader. And I got involved with Harry because clearly Democrats are in power, and I wanted to put vocational schools in the federal prisons. And I was willing to put up some of my money initially to get it started. And unfortunately, Senator Reid he passed away before we were able to get anything done. Well, a former sheriff in Las Vegas, Bill Young, he told me, he said, the best reentry program in the United States, it's in Las Vegas. He said, it's called Hope for Prisoners. I said, well, I never heard of it. He said, well, I want you to meet this guy that runs it. So there's a guy who runs it. His name is John Ponder, who's been in prison himself twice. He started this program in 2012, Joe. The recidivism rate is only 5%. So, being a leery guy, being a gambler, there's a lot of people looking for your money these days. We all know that. But I met with John Ponder and became really impressed with him. But the more I learned about him and the program and what he's done, I got superly impressed. And so my wife and I got more involved. We made some financial assistance available, and they were able to add to some of the things they were doing as far as, teaching and stuff. This is an 18-month program these people are in, by the way. And the first thing they do, almost every one of these people have an issue with drugs. First thing they do is get them off of drugs. Second thing they do, they get them right with their families. You got to be right with your family. And that's the reason this program works so good. And every month we have a graduation there. The graduation, Joe, is held at Metropolitan Police Headquarters in downtown Las Vegas. There's usually 50 to 75 police officers there. Come to find out, there's 200 police officers in Las Vegas Metro that are mentoring these people now. A typical graduation, you've got the mayor there, you've got the district attorney there, you've got a judge there, you've got the head of corrections for Nevada, sometimes the governor's there if he's in town. And usually you got about 1,000 people there, friends, and you got a lot of mentors in the Las Vegas area that come. They come up and they receive their diplomas, and the second that's over, there's a job fair, and they all have jobs before they leave.